Hey there, home base leaders. It's Ned Noon here, your life coach and business consultant, spiritual seeker, here with a special edition of Spiritual Sundays, the Bible. I want to thank you for watching and listening on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud to the podcast, and watching on Facebook Live. Getting off to kind of a late start, almost 20 minutes past the hour. I usually like to start right at 3 o'clock. But I was helping somebody crush and accomplish one of their goals. And that's what I love to do. I love to help people have a more rich and better life. That's what I live for. So, as I announced in an earlier video this week, this is a special edition because I'm doing something that I am really passionate about today, but that I feel is a big risk to Spiritual Sundays. So I'm hoping that you'll stick with me through this. I'll say this. First, let me get into my sponsors real quick. I want to. Yep, I'm definitely nervous. Okay, so Spiritual Sundays is sponsored by Audible. If you don't know about Audible, you can check it out for free. If you've ever wanted to explore a big book like the Bible, some anywhere from 12 to 1,800 pages, densely packed text in that book, or any other book, just some motivational books or just a good old-fashioned storybook, Harry Potter or something like that, you can find that stuff right on Audible. They have the best narrators. I have one of my favorite editions of the Bible on the Home Base Leadership Facebook page. Excuse me. Excuse me. On the Home Base Leadership Facebook page under Mobile University. So click on any book on there, try out Audible for free. And if you like it or if you don't like it, you can keep the book for free. Second sponsor, we do have another sponsor now. The second sponsor, Marie's on, yay. Second sponsor to Spiritual Sundays is Singular Nutrition Systems, which you can also find on the Home Base Leadership Facebook page. If you're ready to lose 5 to 15 pounds, gain an unbelievable amount of energy, and increase your athletic performance, by all means, go on the Home Base Leadership Facebook page, check out Singular Nutrition Systems. They are the products that I've been using, that I've used to lose 14 pounds, a ton of inches, and gained a ton of energy, increase my athletic performance. Jeff Hare, all right. I'm so glad you joined. Yes. All right. Awesome. We are off to a great start. So, sponsors out of the way. As I mentioned, I am nervous about this one because I have really tried. I really wanted to keep Spiritual Sundays very PC, very, I don't know, just keep it very PC and very, available and open to everybody. So I finally made a decision that I can't really make that big of a difference. I can't really do my job of helping people to explore spirituality unless I really open up and share from the heart and share what I feel and share what I believe. Just by soft pedaling it and trying to keep everything so that I'm not upsetting anybody or anything like that is not going to serve anybody. So I am not going to upset anybody, hopefully, but I definitely know that there's going to be people who don't agree with me, and I'm okay with that. So I'm going to jump right into it. Today's topic is misinterpretations of the Bible, and the Bible. So I want to start with giving a short little, the shortest version of my spiritual resume. I got my first Bible when I think I was about 3 or 4 years old. The thing was bigger than I was. It was a big, huge, apocryphal Catholic Bible, lots of pictures in it. I think my grandfather gave it to me. I served on the altar. Angela's on too? Yeah. All right. Really great. I served on the altar with my grandfather at St. Mary's Catholic Church for a number of years. Attended catechism. Went through um, a few sacraments with the Catholic Church. Obviously, First Communion, confirmation, so on. But then I went out to explore spirituality on my own. And I explored spirituality in a number of different places, Buddhist temples. I visited a mosque. I've been to a synagogue. I've been to a number of different places to explore spirituality. Then I decided I really wanted to get to know this creator. I wanted to get to know the Bible a lot better. I decided to enroll in some classes, and I got a bachelor's degree in theology from Grand Canyon University, which I just got recently graduated from there. With my BA in theology and my minor in psychology for life coaching. So anyway, the Bible, spirituality is definitely something that is all inclusive to everyone. It doesn't have anything to do really with any religion or any background, anything. And that's why I love spirituality. But I also love the Bible. But the Bible has gotten an unbelievably bad rap. And it gets a bad rap because it's been so misinterpreted for so many years, hundreds of years. And almost every Christian church that I've been to, and I've been to a large number of them, as well as studying this stuff alongside of other Christian ministers and pastors in college, the misinterpretation of the Bible is unbelievably out of control. And that's what I wanted to get into today. I just want to get my notes here. Definitely prepared for this show. So, I think the misinterpretation comes from the fact that there is, according to today's numbers, which I just looked up earlier, there is 45,000 words in the Hebrew language. There is 75,000 to 80,000 expressions that can be made out of those 45,000 words. So let's put that in comparison to what we have in the English language. In the English language, we have 171,000 words in use today. That's according to the Oxford Dictionary. And that doesn't even count the 47,000 words that are obsolete. Okay. So the Bible has been interpreted and written in the English language from a language that has only 1/3 of the words available to it. And so that left a wide spectrum of misinterpretations that could be had throughout the Bible. I want to get into a little bit of technical knowledge just for a quick minute. The Bible has always been considered a canon or canonical, which means that it is canonical is a term that is that means that the collection of writings within the book are specifically aimed towards a certain group of people in a certain region, group, or demographic. And that is one of the things that supposedly brings the Bible its authority, is the fact that it is canonical. Aaron, thanks for jumping on. All right. We got some awesome people watching live. So back to the canon of the Bible. One of the things that causes it, that has been promoted as a fact is that it's a canon, which supposedly makes it more authoritative, because what a canon does is it is supposed to be for a specific group and demographic, and it is supposed to be timeless across all times without without any interruption. So what I'm trying to say by that is that the Bible probably was canonical at one time, and the books in the Bible do a really good job of not contradicting one another. So there's 66 books in the Bible, and from 1 to 66, each one of those books does a pretty good job of not contradicting one another. However, there are 14 books missing out of the Bible. 14 books missing, and even there's actually a lot more than 14 books, but there's 14 books missing out of the Christian Bible that have been cut because they weren't canonical and didn't fit into they came from the apocryphal Bible, the Catholic Bible, and they didn't fit, so they cut them out. So that is one of the reasons that the Bible is no longer canonical. Another reason that the Bible is no longer a canon, or can be considered a canon, is because it is no longer timeless. So I wanted to look at real quickly here reference to, let's see, I mixed up my pages here. I apologize. Thanks for sticking with me here as I find the proper the notes that I prepared. So real quick, I wanted to circle back to the language. So in order to interpret the Bible out of the language of Hebrew into English, the scholars who did that, they used two techniques. They used a technique called hermeneutics and exegesis. And hermeneutics is a system of taking those Hebrew words and those Hebrew phrases and finding out what their true meaning is and what their true translation is into English. So even using hermeneutics, though, there are various different translations that can be had. Exegesis is taking that step of hermeneutics one more step further and really kind of finding out what the phrase meant in that time frame and for those people, and then applying that to what it means today. So an example of one of the reasons why the Bible is no longer considered a canon is because of I put the note here somewhere, because of reasons like the fact that Moses is the author of the first 5 books of the Bible, of the what is considered the law. And however, Moses Moses didn't write, or I mean, Moses was not present, rather, is what I meant to say. He was not present in the Garden of Eden. He was not present during Genesis. But, oh, here we go. Found it. I apologize. As I said in the beginning, I'm really nervous because I feel like I'm taking a big chance here. Anyway, one of the reasons that the Bible is no longer canonical is for reasons like Leviticus chapter 13, verse 46. In the book of Leviticus, Moses is training the priests to identify diseases and identify things. So this is really good stuff that he's doing. However, what happens in Leviticus is he shows people how to identify leprosy. He does a pretty good job at it. He gives and he shows people that it's not always leprosy, so it's okay. Let's have the person kind of just sit out of church and stuff for a little while and have them come back and have them looked at again and see if it is actually leprosy. And if it in fact is, Leviticus 13:46 says that they should be put out of camp, that they should be put out of the community. All right. So in today's thought pattern, in today's modern technology, we don't put somebody out of the community for being sick. We send them to a doctor and we help them get better. We do have modern technology, which they did not have, but more importantly, we don't participate in practices like that were suggested during that time, because time has evolved and time has changed. So that makes it so that, that right there, amongst many other things, and I could have definitely did just a whole hour or 3 hours on things, practices all throughout the Old Testament and a few in the New that are no longer practiced because we have modern technology. Things have evolved, we've learned more, and we've evolved with it. So a couple things that I also wanted to mention in there. There's a lot of stuff about discrimination of certain types of people. We don't need to discriminate against certain types of people anymore for actions that they have had. Adulterers or homosexuality or any kind of discrimination that was promoted then is no longer acceptable now because we have evolved as a society. Just the same as we have evolved as a society in our modern technology of medicine, we've evolved in society in our embrace of everyone. So that is one of the number one reasons the Bible cannot be considered authoritative from a canonical sense. But let's talk about authorship real quick. And I think I kind of jumped ahead there when I was talking about the Garden of Eden because I wanted to get right into talking about authorship of the Bible. So the big debate is, how was the Bible authored? How is it written? And the choices are, it was divinely inspired, or that it is the Word of God, meaning just dictated from the Word, like through dictation, like the way somebody would talk and the other person would write. And then obviously the third option would be that, it's just purely made up. It's just all stories that, sages and people wrote throughout time. So in other shows, we've talked about spiritual disciplines. There's 3 main spiritual disciplines: prayer, meditation, and fasting. And through these spiritual disciplines, I believe that the Bible was divinely inspired. So in other words, there are a few cases, I believe it's a combination, that there are small few cases where the words were given to the author and the words were written as they were given. But those cases came through a meditative state or a state of mind where the person had been practicing a spiritual discipline, one of the others, of probably prayer or fasting or combination of all of them. And those words came to them and they wrote them down. Those words are very few and far between. That's really important because that's another way to say that the Bible is not always 100% authoritative. Crystal, thanks for jumping on. Thanks everybody for watching. Jeff, I see a lot of hearts coming up. I really appreciate your support. If you're still on, I thank you so much. Continuing on here. So what I'm trying to say is that I love this book, but it is so often put forth as the authority, as the end all, say all in everything. And what's happened because of that is it's created an unbelievable amount of judges. So many people just want to point back to this book and say, because of this, we must discriminate against certain people. We must participate or do things a certain way. We must do this and we must do that. And they point to this book and they say, because it's in there. So let's talk about, real quick, just a couple of the things of the divine inspiration versus the divine inspiration versus the Word of God. So Moses was the author of all 5 of the first books, the books that were considered the law. The first book being Genesis, and in the first book, story that many people are familiar with, the Garden of Eden. And Moses was not present in the Garden of Eden. We know that because the Garden of Eden is a story about two people, Adam and Eve. The Garden of Eden was a divinely inspired story, and it's also what's considered an allegory. An allegory is a story that is told to produce a meaning, to give you something to learn from. It is not a factual story. So it's just a story about the meaning. It's a story to teach you a lesson. And the lesson from the Garden of Eden, and I'm not going to really try, I'm truly not going to try to get on my soapbox and really preach to you today. I don't have my Baptist minister voice on. But anyway, the story it's the story of God's love. Okay. And it's the first story of where we get to find the effects of karma. Okay. So God created these two people in a perfect world, and he said, don't touch this one fruit. And they decided to do it anyway. So we get to start to see cause and effect. And to compare it to modern day life, I would say it's the same as if you were out drinking all night long and you woke up the next morning and you didn't feel well. That's karma. That is what I'm talking. That's the allegory. He's trying to show that it's okay. Guys, thanks for the love. I really appreciate it. He's trying to show the love. Okay. He's trying to show that he said, here's the perfect world. And, if you don't want to go the right path, if you don't want to do the thing that, that is good for you, then, it's not going to feel good. But, is there all this punishment, damnation, all these other things? Is there pain in childbirth and everything else because Eve, convinced Adam, blah, blah, blah? No, it's an allegory. It's not a factual story. All right. Moving on. I'm going to try not to get my Baptist preacher voice on here. But so we're going to talk about one more allegory at the end, the crucifixion. And I know that's going to be a little bit, it might be a little shocking for somebody to even hear that the crucifixion might actually be an allegory as well. I wanted to cover one other thing before I got into that, though. So the Bible is divinely inspired. It does contain a few words of God. Moses wrote the 10 Commandments. And, in the writing of the 10 Commandments, he used a phrase, and if I could just keep these, God spoke these words. So those phrases like God spoke these words, are very few and far between throughout the Bible. And those are the words that are possibly the words of God. So the 10 Commandments are pretty good. I mean, do we need to judge other people on them? No, because just about every single person has broken almost every single one. And that is what Adam and Eve did in the Garden of Eden. It's a guideline. It's a set of rules to live by. The closer you follow the 10 Commandments, I think you might do better, But if you break a bunch, if you break most of them or all of them, it's not the end of the world, okay? And it's not the end of anything. It is not, they are written in stone, maybe, but it's not going to be kaput for you, to use a technical term, kaput. By the way, to kind of lighten it up a little bit, I wanted to know if anybody out there knows how Moses makes coffee. I'll give that a minute to see if any comments come up. If people know how Moses was able to make coffee when he came out of his meditative and fasting states. The book of the Bible, the entire Bible, all 66 books in there, are specifically for one reason. And we get that reason right in Leviticus 19, chapter 19, verse 18. Love your neighbor as yourself. And I'll throw in there one more quick little thought about that. There's a story about a rabbi who's teaching the Talmud, which is the Old Testament combined with more. Oh, what does Marie say? Agreed. Living by the commandments can lead to happiness. Thanks, Marie. Yeah, you do get some benefits the closer you follow the commandments, but doesn't mean you have to live them all the time. So anyway, the story about the rabbi was that he would tell his class, he would say, I will give anybody an A. You don't even have to take the class. You can have an A in the class and not take this long 6-month course in the Talmud if you can get up here and stand on one foot and recite the entire Talmud. So one clever student decided that he could do it. He used the burning bush. Jeff, that's a good answer to how Moses makes coffee. He used the burning bush. No, it wasn't the burning bush, Jeff. He brews it. I like the answer though. Yep. So Moses, that's how Moses makes coffee. He brews it. So real quick, back to the story about the rabbi teaching the Talmud. One clever student decided he could do it. He got up there, he held this big, heavy Talmud in his hand, and he stood on one foot, and he said, love your neighbor as yourself. And the rest is just commentary. Bingo, bango. That's it. That's the whole book. That's the whole meaning. Thanks for the laughs, guys. I really appreciate it. Glad you liked my little Hebrew humor there. So, getting on to wrapping it up real quick. I spent a little bit of time talking about the Old Testament. And thanks, Angela. Thanks for. Glad you thought that was good. It was funny. I spent quite a bit of the time today talking about the Old Testament. I probably will do another edition and talk a little bit more about the New Testament because I think it's definitely important to get into that, because not only is the book a book of love and a book about love, not about judgment, which is what it gets promoted and pushed as all the time. It gets pushed and promoted as a book of judgment. And when the preacher gets up there on Sunday, he just reinforces that thought and those actions. God said this and God said that, and do this and do that. And if you don't, then you're going to hell. I hate that. Oh, you're going to hell. Hell isn't even a place. So let's just forget that idea. So real quickly, I'm going to say, I wanted to just jump in there and talk about forgiveness. So many people want to believe in the story of the crucifixion as being, 100%. And I wasn't there. I'm not Pontius Pilate. I'm not one of the disciples. I don't think I was there. So to say whether it is or it isn't, 100% factual truth isn't for me to say, but I will say this. Whether it's a true story or not, the story is meant as an allegory. It is meant to teach you a lesson. That's what allegories do. They teach you a lesson through a story. And the story is that God loved this one being that was created, this character called Jesus. And he loved this character so much because that character, Jesus, knew and had a relationship with this God. So just an unbelievable relationship. He knew and understood exactly who he was in relationship to the universe, to God, and everybody. And the story, as the story goes, that, people didn't buy what he had to say. They didn't like him because everything he was saying was contrary to what they were saying. Because what he was trying to say is that he loved people and that we all need to love and embrace people. We need to not be judging everybody. We need to be inclusive and put our arms around every single person in every single situation and do what we can to lift other people up. And through those teachings, the old school preachers of the time, the Sanhedrin, were angry. They said, that sucks. We don't like that. Let's crucify him. And so they killed the guy. And it's a story that says, even though there's a person out there trying to do their best to make the world a better place, and that even the people who put that person to death can still be forgiven. That's what the story is. It doesn't matter that Pontius washed his hands, or that the Sanhedrin and the rest of the crowd were chanting, crucify him, crucify him. They all are forgiven. They are all forgiven. And that is the meaning of the whole entire book. Love your neighbor as yourself and forgive the people who do wrong. Because no doubt you've come across some people in your life. I guarantee that you've come across some people in your life who've judged you and done wrong by you and said, because of this is why you can't do that. Because of that is because of this book is why you can't do these kinds of things. Because it says in there, and because that's the authority and that's the word of God and that's what is supposed to happen. And those people have hurt you and those people have done wrong by you because of misinterpretations out of that loving scripture, out of that loving book. Jeff asks, is there any proof that Jesus exists outside of the Bible? Okay, great answer. Great question, Jeff. And I have one of the things that I've heard about that is one of my favorite answers to that question came from one of my spiritual teachers. My spiritual teacher told a story about meeting a nun. And this nun said to him, if you haven't met Christ in the very first person that you've met in your life, forget about him. You'll never meet him. What does that mean? What does that mean exactly? I've shared that with a few people, and for a lot of people, they don't get it. They don't understand. How do I meet Christ in the very first person I meet every day? Because Christ exists in every single person that exists. And real quick, I'll just jump on to, before I wrap this up today, I know I hit a real hot point with the crucifixion. I might as well just stay on a roll and go right into the virgin birth. There is something inside of you that is untouched. There is love. There is a love energy inside of you, which I like to refer to as God, that is untouched and will always be untouched. Nothing can ever touch this something inside of you. We can find and tap this something through the 3 spiritual disciplines of prayer, meditation, and fasting, but it's always untouched. And it's through that untouched space is where Jesus was born. Jesus was born out of that virgin, untouched space in the woman Mary. And that is how we get that phrase or that meaning. That's one of the misinterpreted things from Hebrew into English. Jesus was born out of this untouched space. So rather, a lot of people just procreate just for the sake of doing it. It's fun. Why not? And they do it haphazardly. In this case, it was done intentionally through an untouched space. So, is there any proof that Jesus exists outside of the Bible? Jesus exists outside of the Bible, most definitely. Look around for another human being, Jeff, and I'm sure you could probably find Jesus, no doubt. Which brings me to my final point, which is kind of a sad point a little bit. I know 3 Christians. I know a few people who, actually, I probably a couple more than 3, a few more than 3, probably maybe somewhere around a half a dozen Christians. But out of those half a dozen Christians, I would say only 3 of them, maybe 4, would say that they are not Christian. And I say good for them. Good for them, because to me, I feel that by announcing that you're a Christian can be a little bit embarrassing. It can be embarrassing because of the number of people who want to go around as judges. And that is the farthest thing from Christ that could possibly be. I'm not going to say who these 3 people are who are Christians, but I will say that they live more like Christ. And I think that's what truly a Christian is. You don't even have to study or understand the Bible to live like Christ. But these people who live like Christ and do the kinds of things that Jesus did when he was here, those are the people who are, to me, true Christians. I think next week we'll get into the New Testament a little bit more. I wanted to talk about the authorship of the New Testament. I also wanted to talk about Christianity as a whole, and the fact that Jesus, surprisingly enough, did not create Christianity. Jesus wasn't interested in creating any religion. He just wanted people to follow him. He just wanted people to follow his example and learn by what he was teaching and learn the love message that's in the book. Jesus did not create Christianity. A man by the name of Paul did. Paul wrote the majority of the New Testament, and he is largely responsible for creating the Christian faith. We can explore more about how Paul went about doing this next week. For now, I think I will take just a moment to open up the phone lines if anybody wants to jump in there. The phone number is right behind me, 248-653-4403. I know it's been a long spiritual Sunday today, 37 minutes to listen to me carry on about the Bible. Let's see if you have any thoughts or anything to say about it. I am all ears. I definitely want to take your calls, and I definitely want to hear what you have to say. So for the next couple minutes, if you have anything that you'd like to say about the Bible, if you want to tell me how wrong I am or how right I am or whatever. And by the way, Aunt Beth, Jeff, Marie, Melanie, Angela, and everybody watching on the playback, all the love and support that I got today really means a lot to me. It really lets me know that I am going in the right direction and that I am speaking from the heart and doing my best to help as many people as I can with the knowledge that I have. I may only have, a teardrops full of knowledge in the ocean of knowledge of spirituality, but I have devoted a good portion of my life to understanding the love that's in the book that I just placed behind me there. So just one last time, I'm going to throw the number out there, 248-653-4403. Jeff, thanks again. Marie, oh my gosh, you guys are blowing up my page with the hearts. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. I felt like this was going to be a big risk. I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. I really appreciate all of your support. I really didn't expect anybody to chime in on the phone and throw in their 2 cents. So, because I know it is a big, heavy topic, like the topic I covered I think last week. So, I am just gonna wrap it up there. Oh, thanks, Marie. Thanks, honey. You really are speaking on love beautifully. I appreciate that. So I am going to wrap it up there. I do want to remind you that there is Motivation Mondays. I do Motivation Mondays before the sun rises, before the rooster crows, right here on the Home Based Leadership Facebook page. And I have Weigh-In Wednesdays where I am sharing what's working for me, and I want to take calls from you to find out what's working for you as far as what you're doing to get yourself healthy and get yourself in good shape and feeling good. You've got the education experience to back up everything too. Thanks, honey. Thanks again. I appreciate that. I was just reading these comments out loud for our listeners on the podcast. And with that, I am going to say that we can have better leaders by becoming better leaders. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.